Hi everyone, welcome to a totally awesome video about types of government. And to help me today, I have a couple special guests. I've got Connor here on the screen, my youngest son, third grader at Parkwood. And I've got my older son, Carson, sixth grader at Ankeny. He's going to come in here in just a bit too. But you see monarchy, and I think most of you know what a monarchy is. Kings and queens, power often derived from divine right, God-given power. And the power is transferred to children. It's hereditary by birthright. So we're going to explain how there are two types of monarchies. And to help me today, I have a special guest, Mr. King George III. Way back at the American Revolution. Didn't go so well for King George at that time. But
what do you mean?
I don't want to spoil it for you. But he's got an introduction to this video today. So King George, take it away.
I'll say you need to pay attention if you want to get a good grade. You'll cry when you fail on the test because you did not even try. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you came in the first day. Now you're making me mad.
All right. So you can tell my kids were really into Hamilton this summer, as many of you probably were too, or maybe even before that. But there's your little Hamilton introduction. He's absolutely right. You need to pay attention because I want you to be successful this year. So if you're looking at monarchies, a couple different types. I'm going to put it in full screen here so we can see it a little bit better. You have absolute monarchs and absolute monarchies. And these are kings and queens who had absolute power. They could do whatever they want. They could tell you what religion you had to be. They could pass whatever taxes they wanted. And citizens had to do it, had very few rights, or if they didn't listen, they might have ended up dead. And you could tell by the people on this screen that some of that happened. Ivan the Terrible, that nickname suited him well. So you could probably think in history about a number of people, absolute monarchs, who made some of these rules. Now, King George, were you an absolute monarch?
Actually, no, because Parliament actually had more power than I did, unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that during the Revolution, Parliament was who really truly had the power, and King George was limited. And even today in England, obviously, the Queen of England is not an absolute monarch. Parliament's where the real power, the Prime Minister is the most powerful figure in England today. So it's a constitutional monarchy or a limited monarchy. Now on to democracy. When we talk about democracy here in America, we get warm fuzzies when we talk about democracy. We think about lots of good things. One word that comes to mind oftentimes is freedom. We think of freedom, and there's freedom. There is freedom in democracy, but there are also different types of democracies, just like there were different types of monarchies. So let's get into talking about these types of democracies.
Raise a glass to freedom, something they can never take away.
All right. More Hamilton. All right. So you get the theme here. But there are two different types of democracies. You have a representative democracy, which you should all be very familiar with because it's our government, right? We elect people to make decisions for us. A representative democracy. The advantages here, people have a voice, but sometimes our representatives don't always do what we want. Think today about Congress. How do we feel about what's going on today? Some of you may feel good about it, some of you may not, but representative democracy is what we have today in the United States, and it's also a big part of why we call our government a republic as well. We're going to talk about that a lot this year here in AP government class. So the representative democracy is what we have currently. I think we know that. Now, there's another type of democracy that is a little bit more difficult in terms of process, but it's much more democratic, and that's a participatory democracy or a direct democracy. And in that case, that means that everybody has a voice on everything. So that means you would vote on everything. So we'll do a little example of a participatory democracy. Hey guys, boys, come back over here for a second. Where do you want to eat for dinner tonight?
I want to eat at Chipotle.
No, I want to eat at
Donatas.
You know what? I'm going to go with Donatos.
Darn it!
So guess what? Participatory democracy, we decided there that we're going to go to Donatos. And that's everyone has a voice. You vote on everything. Now, in our household, if we voted on every single thing, this probably wouldn't always work out well. Plus, we have 4 of us, so it would be 2-2 tie a lot. So that's a participatory democracy. Moving on, totalitarianism. Totalitarianism it's an umbrella for lots of governments. It's a system where governments and rulers have complete, unchecked powers over the nation. They have complete power. Government has complete control. Citizens have very little rights. They only have the rights the leaders give to them. And a lot of times totalitarian governments, they take it by force. And you could see a lot of really bad guys, Stalin and Hitler. These are not people that we like to look at and say we're good leaders. Some of the worst people in world history. But totalitarianism is this absolute power for the government. Now, there's a lot of things that fall under totalitarianism. One is a dictatorship. And this is where one ruler tells everybody what to do. You see Saddam Hussein here in this picture, and obviously North Korea, Kim Jong-un, you think of that dictatorship. Here would be a dictatorship at the Cusick household. Hey, boys, it's time for bed.
What? But I'm about to get a win on this game. And I'm really hungry.
You know what? Go to bed because I said so. That's it. All right, that's totalitarianism. It's a dictatorship. And many of you probably have that type of dictatorship, as parents sometimes will pull that card in the household. So dictatorship. I'm going to explain this one without help here. But oligarchy, an oligarchy is where you have a group of people in charge of a country. So sometimes this could be looked at different ways. I always think of an oligarchy as a handful of people. 5, 6, 7, even 3, 4, 5, just more than one, right? A group of people that have control in a country. The example you see on the slide here, you could argue this, but you can look back to South Africa with apartheid, where whites were the minority in South Africa and were discriminating against the majority, and the small group of whites controlled South Africa. Some called that an oligarchy at the time as well, as a kind of a historical example. So this just kind of wraps up totalitarianism. North Korea, Cuba, Hitler, Stalin, all of these were totalitarian governments. So socialism and communism. The next 2 slides explain the difference between capitalism and socialism, and then it breaks down socialism and communism. And there's a lot here, obviously. I don't want to make this video really, really long, but with socialism, the government controls the means of production, and they're owned by the state. But there is still some room for private ownership in socialism. Okay? And people work, and the wealth is then redistributed back. So I think you think of socialism, I think most people have a certain idea what that means. But let's do a quick little example about socialism. Boys, come on over here. So did you work last night?
Yeah, we did all our chores, and we made all this money here.
Made this money. Give it back to the government. Government has it.
This is my money. Yeah,
No. All right, I'm going to hand it out to these people over here. Here's a couple dollars.
Please, we're poor now. This is all our money.
Okay. All right. Wait. I'm distributing it back. We're giving it back.
This is like a sixth of what I had.
All right. Okay. So now, to be quite honest, now they still can have some private ownership. They have some money. There could still be some private ownership in socialism. And quite honestly, there are elements of socialism that exist in Europe and other places. And clearly, as you probably understand, socialism has been twisted around in other countries to kind of morph into dictatorship and totalitarianism and all of that. But really, in socialism, there is a redistribution of wealth, and the government controls a lot of the ownership, and it's going to be redistributed back. And in some ways, that could be good, right? You're helping people, the lower class, you're bringing people up. But of course, if you're getting money taken from you, you may not like that a lot. And we obviously have debates about socialism, that word today. Something like socialized medicine, where we take money and we create a program and everyone has health care. Some of these things may be good, right? We could debate that as well. But socialism, right? Socialism. People always ask the difference between socialism and communism really is that next step. Communism is there's no private ownership. The government controls everything. There's a production for basic needs. Everything is shared. And clearly, when you look at Karl Marx, Communist Manifesto, pure communism where everything's shared, everything's owned by everyone. The central government controls things, but it's for the good of everyone and it's distributed out. Pure communism, you could argue there's some merits to it, but in reality, it hasn't worked. It doesn't work. There's never really been a communist nation that has truly been successful. And we've seen lots of failed experiments over the years. And so it's really hard for communism to work and for socialism to work in a lot of ways. But communism is that next step after socialism. And we'll talk and discuss this in class. It's hard to kind of do this on the video quickly, but there's a lot of things we can discuss here. So this is something we'll touch on in class. Couple more. Theocracy. Theocracy is essentially the church is the state. And with a theocracy, religion dominates the government. We think in America, separation of church and state. Theocracy is the exact opposite of separation of church and state. The church is the state. So, boys, coming up, you got to pay your taxes. You're paying your taxes to the church.
Is that really fair? That
yes, you live in a theocracy. This money all goes to the church and to whatever religion we want to call this here, but this money all goes to the church because the church is the state. How's that? Sound good? All right. Pay your tax dollars. Okay. So there's the theocracy. Now to wrap it up, I don't have a slide here, but to wrap it up, anarchy. Okay? Anarchy is the complete absence of government. And we don't have it's the opposite of totalitarianism. So let's go a little example of anarchy.
Can I go play with matches, Dad?
Sure, there's no rules. Go play with matches, do what you want, have a good time.
Yay!
What do you want to do? But you know what? You can stay up all night. You can eat whatever candy you want.
Can I run out into the ocean?
Sure, you could run out into the ocean if you'd like to. You can do whatever you want because there are no rules.
Of the candy in the cabinet.
Okay, all right.
Can we burn the house down?
No, all right, we're taking it too far now. So anarchy is the complete absence of government. And I think we know that, but it's the opposite of totalitarianism. Thanks for paying attention, everybody. And I will explain this new constitutional convention in class for the online students and for the people in class. This should be a lot of fun. We look at the different types of governments, and you're going to do something with them. But we're going to end with this. Don't throw away your shot this year. Don't throw away your shot in this AP class. We want you to be successful, so don't throw away your shot.
I am not throwing away my shot. You are not throwing away your shot. Hey, yo, you're just like your country. You're young, scrappy, and hungry, and you're not throwing away your shot.
On the AP test in this class, moving forward, thanks for paying attention, and we'll be back with another video another time. Talk to you later.